All right. So I think I got it straightened out. Looks like people are jumping in now. Sorry for the mix-up this morning. But welcome to another Lunch and Learn with OAS, where we focus on Unanet. Really, our goal, if for anybody new joining us, Unanet's a very powerful system. So our goal is to kind of exchange some ideas and tips and tricks and get everybody who maybe is lacking in a certain area up to speed a little bit more. We're partners with Unanet AE, and we're also trainers and users. So hopefully we can share some of our experience and insight with the Unanet community, so to help use the system even more efficiently than you already do. Please feel free to ask any questions as they come up during the presentation and also after the presentation. And it doesn't have to be on the subject that we're talking about today. If you came with a question that you're struggling with, just please feel free to ask it maybe after the presentation. We'll have some time to ask those types of questions. And then we ask that if you know of anybody who's struggling with their ERP system, please refer them to us. We can help them either get on a better system like Unanet AE, or help them use Unanet even more efficiently than they do now. These are some of the things that we offer. Again, if you've been with us before, you've seen this slide before, but just for anybody new joining us, we do software sales. One of the things that you may not have that we also offer is the add-on CRM for Unanet AE. So if you're interested in adding that on or learning about that, please let me know. We also do implementation planning and training for the system. We can do custom designs for invoices, reports, and things of those nature. And then obviously we do continued support and training. And then if need be, we also do outsource accounting services utilizing Unanet AE. But that's the introduction. And again, mostly for new ones joining us, just to give an overview of OAS and our focus for these lunch and learn meetings that we put together. But now we're going to have a presentation from one of the OAS senior ERP consultants, Courtney Mahon, and she's going to talk to us today on labor distribution. So if you have any struggles with that, or you need help with that, today is the day. So Courtney, if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Today I'm going to be covering labor distribution. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I do have a couple of slides that we're kind of going to go through before we kind of jump into our demo sandbox and kind of play around. When I do think of labor distribution, for some reason I think of like the 5 W's and the H, like what, when, where, who, when, and how.
Courtney,
Yes.
Sorry, did you mean to share your screen?
I haven't yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yep. Labor distribution is probably one of my favorite utilities in Unanet because it's a huge time saver. Unanet's labor distribution accurately maps labor costs with the appropriate work stream, so you're not spending countless hours manually trying to put labor costs on your general ledger or your income statement. This utility just does it for you. And then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to start with the what, when, and where. What is labor distribution? It is a way of dividing up an employee's salary cost across different projects, departments, or accounts within a company. Labor distribution utility in Unanet creates a general journal entry for you, and it's comprised of separate rows for direct and indirect labor. When do you use it? Labor distribution should mirror your payroll schedule. Unless you are splitting up the labor distribution between 2 GL periods, which happens when you sometimes run, bi-weekly, or your payroll covers 2 separate months. Sometimes you do want to break it out. You also want to make sure that all timesheets are submitted and approved. We will walk through what does occur in your labor distribution if you do not have submitted or approved timesheets. Human resources, labor distribution in Unanet is where labor distribution lives. We'll go over that. And then we're going to go into the how. And I'm going to open up Unanet here. And so global settings will want to be 100% filled out. So if we go to administration, global settings, and then you're going to find the labor distribution tab. I have it open already. You want to ensure that all of these base codes are filled out prior to you running labor distribution. You'll be selecting like direct salary, any direct labor expense account that you want to have salaries in, overhead, direct, and so on and so forth. I do want to point out, if you do have subcontractors that are running labor distribution, that are submitting timesheets, you will want to, fill this information out, and they'll be part of your labor distribution process. All right, so let's see here. What else do I have? I do want to point out these GL accounts down here, your salary variance, your payroll clearing, and your subcontractor clearing. Salary variance is going to be an expense account, and it's going to show up as an expense account when you're running labor distribution. Same for payroll clearing and subcontractor clearing. These are going to be liabilities. Your payroll entry that you make in line with your payroll these clearing accounts will act like a clearing account in that they will be zeroed out by one another with that entry. So you'll create your payroll entry and you'll be using that payroll clearing account, which will be like your wages, like your gross wages. And then your labor distribution will be creating that counterpart entry that will zero them out. All right. For miscellaneous posting method, we're going to keep it at pay rate, and then hours in a workday, that's going to be 8. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and open up an accounts payable disbursement journal. I created, just an example payroll entry. So I have the payroll clearing account here, that 11,500, and then I did, just some standard entries that do come out in your payroll entry. All right. And now we're going to go through the labor distribution pop-up. And we'll walk through I'm sorry, I jumped a little bit ahead here. Got too excited. Okay, so let's go back to human resources. Another thing that needs to be filled out when you are running labor distribution is your employees. So I'm going to go to human resources, employees. All right. So you want to make sure that salary amounts are listed in the employee record in the pay history tab with the amount that represents the time frame that is to be used for labor distribution. If any salary changes are made during your payroll time frame, or like within, between different payrolls, you will want to go to human resources and recalculate rates so that they're captured in the next labor distribution. You'll also want to make sure that you set up specific pay groups for your employees when you do run labor distribution. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in one of employees. I'm going to quickly click on Dwight. All right, you see here that his pay group is the office. I made sure to assign that. And I'm also going to check here pay history tabs filled out. I want to ensure that the start date and end date the start date is filled out so that he will be captured in the labor distribution. The salary pay per pay period is filled out. And you'll want to make sure, based on, whatever your payroll schedule is, whether it's bi-weekly, weekly, semi-monthly, that this pay rate reflects that. So for example, Dwight here is bi-weekly. So I'm going to divide this 2,000 salary by that 80 hours. So that pay rate is filled in. If you are filling out overtime on your timesheets, you'll want to make sure that these fields are filled out. Okay. All right. So now, we're going to jump into the labor distribution pop-up. All right, here is your labor distribution pop-up. Before we kind of go through, you know, all of the boxes below under settings tab, I do want to point out in accounts, you know how we went into global settings and set those standard accounts in? You want to make sure, you know, that everything's populated for you here as well. But you also have the opportunity to override any of the accounts that you set. So for example, you decide that you want to kind of break out your principal labor. What you're going to do is you're going to run 2 separate labor distributions, and you're going to update that that direct salary for the principal so that it's hitting 2 separate cost accounts, and you'll be able to see that in your general ledger and your income statement. You also do have an opportunity to do this on the project level as well. If I cancel out of here and I'm going to go to project administration, I'm going to go to projects, and I'm going to bring up the vacation project here. You do have the opportunity to set these codes for this project so you can actually track, you know, whether your PTO or vacation or sick time, you can set these separate codes up so that you can track that accurately. You can also, another way too, is if you go into job titles, you can change the codes there as well, but you just want to make sure that you change them back or remove them afterwards. All right, so I'm going to go to human resources, and I'm going to go to labor distribution, and I'm bringing this pop-up back. Just like every section of Unanet, these like burnt red colors are like required fields. So you want to make sure that they're updated. Our payroll is in February, so I'm going to make sure that this period is February, and I'm going to just bring in my error account here. My payroll group, I have the office. My standard day is 8, and my multiplier is 1. I want to ensure that my work start date and my work end date are reflected exactly like payroll. Now I'm going to use the use salary amounts. This happens in most scenarios in Unanet, is you just want to check this use salary amounts. If you do select treat salaried as hourly, your salaried employees are going to be treated just like your hourly employees. And this also comes into play as well if you are running diluted pay rates, which, you know, if you do have any questions on diluted pay rates or, you know, want some more information on, we can cover that at the end as well. You also, if, just like I brought up in the beginning of the call, if you did want to break out your payroll over 2 GL periods, whether, let's say, you know, 1 week was in January 2025 and the next week was in February 2025, you would run you would switch this to treat salaried as hourly. And then you would void it out in that present period or like in February. This post ICT, this is going to be intercompany transfers. If you are multi-company, you can check this box. You also, if you are running multi-company within Unanet, you will get more. There might be a couple more boxes that are here. You can run employees separately if you want to, but you're kind of bypassing this by setting up that payroll group, ensuring that everyone that you need, that you're running payroll for, is captured on this payroll group. Now, I have in the past, especially if you are running separate labor distributions for subcontractors, you can bring in those just subcontractors and run a separate labor distribution for them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and post. All right. And then I'm going to go to my general accounting because it posts a general journal for you. So I'm going to go to general journal and I'm going to use this little search magnifying glass. Before we click into this labor distribution, I just kind of want to make a note of this automated labor distribution covering unprocessed timesheets prior to the start of that pay period. And I'm going to go ahead and click into this. When this happens, it could be a couple different scenarios. You either move time from one project to another or one phase task to another, or someone did not submit their timesheet and you did run labor distribution. You would have to come in here and you'd have to update this account here to the salary variance account. Because when you ran that prior payroll, that's where that employee's salary defaulted. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back, look at our labor distribution. All right. So here's a small example. This little firm I added is only like 5 people. So you're just going to see here the salary variance. Okay. This is we'll go over this. And that payroll clearing account, all right, you see that this is 11,500. I'm going to go back in the disbursement journal and I'm going to do kind of reconcile this right away to ensure that it nets out, which it does. You will find that sometimes like your labor distribution might be a couple pennies off. This is nothing to worry about. And you can either, make the change like while you're doing the payrolls or kind of wait until like the end of the year. If you have like a couple pennies, like or 25 cents sitting in that liability account at the end of the year. And you see here too that the indirect labor has been broken down. So you can kind of see that, hey, this amount was put to administration. These amounts were put to PTO. And you can kind of see the mapping too of just the direct principal labor. One thing that I always like to look at, especially to just kind of auditing yourself and making sure that the salary variance kind of looks correct to yourself, you'll kind of want to go into view and labor postings report. And it's going to be at the very end of the report. Sometimes this report will be like 10 pages long, so you'll have to go to the very last page. And you're really going to focus on this employee recap area here. And you can kind of spot check here. You got Andy, he had 80 hours. And you can check what the variances are for. And then you see the time versus the journal amount. The journal amount is what's coming out. That's what all the employees' salaries are. And their time amount is what's actually on their timesheet. So like if we looked at Michael Scott here, he only worked 74 hours. So in real time, it was only 1615, but the journal amount's 1900. So you see that positive in the variance. If you look at Dwight Schrute, he worked over 100 hours. So you're going to see that credit because he technically worked more than his salary. Okay. All right. Any questions with the labor postings? All right. I'm going to go back to my little slide deck here. Okay. I do want to cover why you would run labor distribution. It provides a detailed breakdown of labor expense accounts on the general ledger and income statement, which can really help with accurate budgeting, like understanding project costs, financial reporting by displaying the distribution of labor costs across various business areas, and project management, tracking labor costs associated with projects. This is kind of just a couple reasons why you would want to run labor distribution. And then let's go, oh, okay, yep. And then let's go to the who. Who wants to run labor distribution, or who should be running labor distribution? Companies that are using or plan on using org units or profit centers, users that have multi-company or intercompany transfers set up in the system, users that want or need to see labor expense broken out in the general ledger or on the income statement. And this one's a big one. Users that want or need labor expense allocation for purposes of tracking and defending overhead, direct project expense multipliers for fixed fee profit or cost plus type projects. So these are common with government or municipal work. And also it's a great management tool to kind of see where your employees are, how much direct hours they are billing or putting their timesheet to versus how much time is being spent on indirect or vacation and things like that. And that's kind of just a little quick overview of labor distribution. I do want to make a note of some common things that I have seen when you run labor distribution and it's not clearing. The payroll clearing, for whatever reason, is not equaling that payroll clearing line item on your payroll entry. An important thing to do and to note is to reconcile this every single pay period. You should not be skipping a pay period and run labor distribution because your prior one was not correct. You want to you don't want to keep going. You want to reconcile each one at a time. And make sure that, because you don't want to get to the end of the year and be like, oh, wow, this is a mess. And I don't know where we went off the rails. So you do want to keep that in mind. Pay increases are a big one when you don't see that your labor distribution clears out. You want to make sure, and probably best practice is probably at the start of your timesheet period, putting in those raises or putting in those payroll adjustments, which makes it, run a lot smoother. I have also seen from time to time, let me bring in project management. Where do I want to go here? Job titles. Sometimes you'll forget that if you, put in an amount here, it'll override, and that's why you're getting an error. So if you do assign, any type of pay rates on your job titles, just make sure to review them, make sure they're right, make sure to remove them when you're not using them. Trying to think what else, other errors I've kind of seen with labor distribution. When, an employee is no longer active, making sure that you're marking them inactive is really important as well. Yeah, and I think that's about it. Does anyone have any questions about labor distribution or running into any issues in their current labor distribution, or just kind of want to review what best practices?
I have one question, Courtney, in the chat.
Yep.
Splitting a payroll between two periods, you wouldn't get a salaried variance calc for that, correct?
So when you are running, so you want to run the last, say, for example, it's the last week of January, you wanted to run that labor distribution. If you typically run it on used salary amounts, you would uncheck this box and then you would treat salaried as hourly and run it from that, from 125 to 131, 2025. And then you would reverse that entry in February, and then you'd run the actual labor distribution entry from use salary amounts from that like 125 to that like last day of that pay period in that February account, February period. Does that make sense? Because when you treat salaried as hourly, it's just going to be pulling those hours on the timesheet. I'm trying to remember. Team, does the labor distribution, when you run it as treat salaried as hourly for that portion, I believe you may get a variance, correct?
I don't think there would be any variance then, right?
It would just be in the payroll clearing that amount, Martha.
Would it just be caught? Yes, it would be in the payroll clearing.
Yeah, so no, there wouldn't be a variance. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Kevin. Nice question. Okay, yeah, he says yes, it answers his question. Any other questions for Courtney or the team here on labor distribution? Please go ahead and either just unmute and ask, or you can type it in the group chat as well. Or any questions in general that we can help with, please go ahead and ask those too. Thank you, Courtney. That was a great presentation.
Yep. Sorry if I sped through it.
And we'll, just so everyone knows, we have this recorded, so we'll send the recording out as well, like we do usually.
Hey, Tim,
Yes.
I have a question I just threw in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud. Does it make sense for hourly employees and salary employees to be separate pay groups, payroll groups?
No, I would keep them both. I would check that box for used salary amounts, but you want to ensure that you check that box. I'll go ahead and share my screen too.
Okay. We don't currently use pay groups.
Okay. So you're just using all your like active employees, and the labor distribution is capturing
I don't
it.
even do the labor distribution. I calculate the breakdown at the end of the month based on number of hours.
Gotcha.
So direct yeah.
Yep. You can run it separately, but just simply using this checkbox here for the hourly employees, the hourly employees will be reflected accurately on the labor distribution entry. And if you need any help with the setup with that, I can we can always assist with that.
Okay. On hourly people, I always use the checkbox. If it's a
Perfect.
person that is salaried, I always put a per pay period amount in, or bi-monthly. So there's some pay periods that it could be 80 hours, but it could be 96.
Okay.
So we may be unique in that. And then I always put in an hourly pay rate based on the annual salary for those salaried people also.
Yep. Okay. Yep. And when you mentioned the monthly, like, is that like a one-off type of payroll you're running, or semi-monthly, or is it usually like a bi-weekly schedule, or sometimes it just
like we get paid the 5th and the 20th. So it truly is twice a month, and can
okay.
Some challenges.
Yep. Yep. Are your timesheet groups currently semi-monthly? Do you have them set up that way, or are they like
they are?
Okay,
they are.
Awesome. Yep. And we could set up pay groups to assist with that. With those two, because there's another client I'm thinking of that has like kind of a similar setup.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So since we're a bi-monthly employer, do we, if you were to take a salary person's cost, 80-hour period is going to be higher than if it was 96. So we tend to keep you know, if I look at job cost on a project, it's always going to be calculated based off an annual salary divided by 2,080
Mm-hmm.
instead of it varying because of the difference in hours in a pay period.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if that's what others do or it just makes sense for us. This way we can always cost a job or price in the next job correctly and not have a reduced cost because it might have been a 96-hour period.
Right.
Maureen, it is okay to do that. That
Okay.
some firms do that. And that's
Okay.
why they use job cost and why we have it in the system as a separate field, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, or a separate rate, I should say.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Maureen. Good question. Any other questions out there? Anybody wondering about anything with labor distribution or anything else?
I have a question, not particularly, I mean, it kind of coincides with labor distribution. And I'm sure this is a common feature for everybody, but how do you get people to enter timesheets? Do you have any suggestions?
Do you utilize the notifications in the system currently?
Yes.
Yeah. This is always, I feel like, always one of the top problems. You know, getting people to submit their time.
Amy, we sell whips too that we can send you.
Like literal whips?
Literal whips.
I don't know what there's a little like I don't know, maybe a 3-foot size oar that's been in the accounting office here since I started.
That works too.
We have ours set up so that it will after, I think, 2 days, or maybe it's after day 1 that it will send multiple reminders a day.
I have that too.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Amy,
And they
This
just
has helped us.
they
Amy, I don't know
just
how I don't know how large your firm is, but we've started implementing that it affects bonuses.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That it's tied together. That if you are late on your timesheets, it will affect your overall bonus.
Great.
Okay. We have around 73 employees. So,
We have 20, so it's a little bit easier to and I see them every day. So it's a little bit easier to get in their faces about it.
okay. Well, I know that we've been trying to discuss different options, and I don't think bonuses came up, but I'll put that down.
Amy, I'll say that we've also, when I say we tie it to bonuses, we can literally sit in a meeting and, you know, there's probably 2 or 3 that are always late on their timesheets. And we know who those people are. So it might not be something that's in writing, but it is something that you can, it's a performance issue.
Yes, because me and my colleague could probably count the people that are consistently late on one hand.
It's an
Maybe
80
2 hands. Maybe it takes
80-20
2
rule.
hands.
80% get them done correctly and 20% are the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I would suggest too is, trying to educate them a little bit on how important it is for, proper project management, proper billing, how it all ties together, because of course your principals and project managers have an idea of how it all ties together, but a lot of your staff and team don't really know the importance. It just feels like a chore. So sometimes just educating how important it is and how it affects the overall profitability of the firm, and then how it overall affects their raises overall, even if it's not tied to bonuses or that sort of thing. It's if the company is able to manage properly and bill properly and all of that, then it just ties into more success for everyone.
Yeah,
And
I've done some education, but I get pushback from some individuals on fixed fee projects. They're wondering why I need to enter a timesheet on fixed fee. I said, well, it's not going to give you accurate financials on the project.
Right. Again, that ties into project management. So, and a lot of firms will tie their hours into, making sure that they've covered the WIP when they're choosing the percentage and that sort of thing, that it's important for the project manager to see that when making billing decisions.
Yes.
Amy, do you think it's also them just not hitting the submit button, or are they just not keeping track of their time per projects well either? And it
I
comes
think
time to submit.
it's we have a handful of people who don't do their timesheets daily. So
Mhm.
then they take extra time and, when it comes to payroll, one of them is actually hourly. So we can't run payroll without their hours. And it's consistent, and then, they get busy doing other things. It's like, we need your timesheet.
Mhm.
So it's a constant headache to remind individuals.
Another trick that I've seen people or other firms use is also putting on everyone's calendar, maybe first thing in the morning to update timesheets, and then at the end of the period to submit the timesheets kind of right on the calendar so it doesn't get missed. It kind of pops up. That's another idea if you haven't tried that as well.
Okay, and I just saw something in the chat that some periodically use vacation time for their timesheets
Hmm.
yeah,
until they provide their hours.
I've not paid hourly employees before when they didn't submit their timesheets. I'm like, I have nothing to pay you on, so you're not getting paid.
Hmm.
And, and that's legal, but when majority of people who are salary, I'm not sure where you're located, Kyle, but legally we can't withhold pay.
Oh yeah, that's only for hourly.
Okay. Okay, these are great
I think
suggestions. Thank you.
you get into though with that, and I could be wrong, but if you withhold the pay and then, the next day they do their time, then I don't think you can wait until the next pay period. You would have to do a one-off payroll, correct?
Correct.
So that gets expensive and complicated sometimes to
Yes.
do a separate.
Well, it's just time consuming too.
Yeah, it adds more to your plate.
Right.
Yeah, maybe trying to get them to put it on their calendar might be a good first start if you haven't tried that already. Just so I know for me in submitting my time, sometimes I just get busy with other things and I forget. So I put it on my calendar to do it now, and it helps a lot.
Well, that's the one thing I haven't done is like I know I have it on our company calendar,
Mhm.
but the company calendar doesn't send out reminders. So I could just, do
Yeah,
an all meeting and say, so it reminds them, but half of them will probably just delete it and not even
right.
accept it for their calendar.
Yeah. Well, you're
Yeah.
definitely not alone. I think a lot of firms struggle with that as well.
Yes. And I've even gone so far because I can't remember where I saw this, but um, I think it was Bamboo HR. I could be wrong, but it was one of those HR platforms, and they said to make it fun.
Hmm.
So that's what I've done. I've started sending memes of timesheet reminders, and most of the employees enjoy it. But again, they just enjoy seeing the memes. It doesn't really make them enter their timesheets. So, yeah,
We also
I
did a
know.
contest in our office. And we had for lack of a better term, we'll call them studios. And if everybody in that studio did their timesheet for, I don't, it might have been like 2 pay periods in a row, then they got a pizza lunch.
That's a good
We-
one.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
Maureen, I was thinking bribery with food.
Yeah.
I feel like
You-
it speaks
Mhm.
to everybody.
You don't
You
want
know,
to
and
be the
let
one
the,
that
let
builds
the
up
other people, for those that didn't get the pizza, let them get upset at their coworker.
Right.
You know, it's like,
I've seen candy bars too, where, you know, on Friday, everybody that had their time sheet in on Monday gets a candy bar and, or whatever, you know, and whatever day and whatever. But if you didn't have your time sheet in on time, you don't get the candy bar when it gets, or, you know, cookie or whatever, when you bring them around the office.
yes.
Yeah. Yes, food is always a big driving force for a lot of different things. But I appreciate everybody's suggestions. I've written them down.
And of course, we still have that whip we can send you if all else fails.
And Amy,
Yeah.
Amy, I know too, I know of a smaller client that not as large as yours. They logged in as each person with an impersonation token and made the timesheet a favorite and then had it populate. So as soon as they logged in, the timesheet came up as a default, as a little like reminder.
Oh, yes. I
Now,
remember seeing that feature.
yeah. Now, at first they told everybody make it a favorite and then you know, right click and have it populate on login. Of course, if people don't do that, it doesn't pop up. So they actually impersonated each person and did it for them. But of course, if they don't log into Unanet, they're not going to see that tab. But just another thing I was thinking of.
Does that work on the web and the desktop? Do you know?
I don't know, but I can definitely test it out for you.
That would be great.
And I was thinking too, because I kind of am running into a situation where they're saying none of my directors want to enter their hours if they're not billable. What are the ramifications? And one of them, of course, is labor distribution, but also in that case and in your case, it's going to affect utilization.
Right.
If you're trying to see what people are, you know, how they're utilizing their time, the utilization will also be off.
Right. And we just had a whole year where I was showing the principals the utilization and, you know, where the big dips are.
Yep.
And these are the, you know, months that people generally take vacation. So, no,
But
that
like
would be good.
like Mary said, me personally, I used to bribe people with chocolate all the time.
Well, it's kind of hard to do that in our office because we have a couple of individuals who keep chocolate at their desk that anybody can walk over and grab.
But I do kind of like that whole pizza idea too.
Yes.
That's a good suggestion.
Or maybe the company takes their team out to lunch one
Yeah.
day.
Because I too get that question all the time. How do people get everybody to get their hours in and get them in on time?
Yes.
Yeah, and like was mentioned earlier, I think once they understand the importance and how it fits into the overall system and tracking of projects and things like that, they may appreciate it a little bit better. So maybe if one of the principals could almost spearhead a discussion or something like that, it might help as well.
Well, I've been training some of the new PMs on the financial side of things, and I've explained to them, you know, in more depth why timesheets are important. And they've seemed to really picked up on that. But it's the ones that have been here for a while that are struggling. So,
Well, if we come up with anything else, we'll let you know, but that was some good suggestions.
yes, they all were. Didn't think about tying it back to the bonuses, but that might be.
Yeah.
And there have been times where we've used vacation hours until they came back with time. No, I do. Thank you for the suggestions.
Questions or us or the team?
Hey, Mike, I do have one question. We're running a multi-company system back on the labor distribution. And when an employee of company A puts time directly to a project in company B, how does that labor distribution get to company B, and then how does company A get reimbursed for it? Is that a
Courtney, do you know that, or anybody else?
I was gonna say Martha might know this, but or Tammy, but in my understanding is it follows the project, but if you set up profit sharing on the project, I believe that it maps it where it needs to go. Martha, Tammy?
You said, but you have multi-company set up, I believe you said, and I just want to
Correct.
repeat that back. You said like somebody in company B charges to a project in company A. Was that the example or the opposite?
Yes, yeah. So in their timesheet, they put that employee puts time directly to a project in the other company.
Yep.
Wanted to just make sure that we're doing it properly, and that the project itself gets hit with the time so that budget can be allocated, but then the proper company gets reimbursed for that, you know, for paying that employee.
Yeah, so company B needs to get the cost of that employee because that's where you're paying payroll, right? So
Yep.
that's where your labor expenses, but it should create an intercompany transaction automatically in labor distribution.
Okay.
To create intercompany revenue and expense for company A and B.
Okay. Okay. And that's what I was hoping what the answer was. I just want to make sure on our side that is reflecting that way when that timesheet gets done and that labor distribution gets done. So
that's definitely what it should be doing. Let us know though if we need to help and look at it with you.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or things we can help with? We've got a few more minutes. While you're thinking of any more, just to let you know that we can definitely, as it's been offered throughout the discussion here, that we can help further. It's hard to kind of cram everything into 1 hour. So if you need help with something specific or something in addition to labor distribution or something like that you're not 100% clear on, just let us know. You can email me or call me, and we can set up some time to help you with those things, whatever it be. So that's what we do every day. So take advantage of our services if you'd like. Just by way of announcement, the next meeting on March 3rd is going to focus on project management. Kind of a first part in a two-part series, project management. First, it'll be project planning, budgeting, and allocations. So if you're not 100% familiar with those, that would be a good one to attend. And also March 17th, continuing on project management, we'll go into resource planning and scheduling. So if those are some areas that you're not 100% familiar with or want to learn more about, or if you have project managers that have questions, please share the invite and they can join as well. It'll be good to get into a little bit more on project management setup and planning and things like that. So bring any questions you have or scenarios that you're struggling with in those aspects, and we'll be ready to answer those questions as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining again, and we look forward to the next one. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.